Welcome back. This is Original Greatness. And first, I would like to start off by thanking God. And I would like to thank you because I do this for you. Now, I have a smile on my face because I'm happy that you guys are here. And I'm glad that I'm able to bring you this content. But my heart is sad. Why? Why is our history so important? And I don't mean our as in Black history or white history. I mean history, things that have taken place. Why is it so important for us to know about what has taken place and why? I believe that the reason why we should know our history is so we can measure and see how much things have actually changed or how things are different. But honestly, due to the research that I've come across on my journey with reading this book and getting a deeper understanding and going further into it, things haven't really changed much. And why? Because we're still divided. We're divided by something that should have just been left as a description and not a division. A man and a woman is a description. Are they different? Not really. Why? Because they're both human beings. What's so different between a white person and a Black person? What's different? The color of their skin. That's a description. And to go deeper, Black and white are really colors. They're not races. They're colors. We've gotten so hung up on the fact of groups and categories and descriptions that we've separated ourselves. We're all human beings. We all share the same planet. We all share the same air. We share the same water. We have a lot more in common than we think, but we pay attention to our differences. We need differences in order to work together as one. If everything in a car did the exact same thing, what's a car? The wheels need to do what the wheels need to do. The steering wheel needs to do what the steering wheel needs to do. The radio needs to do what the radio needs to do. We need uniqueness, but we do not need to be divided. All of those different moving parts coming together makes that vehicle work. So why do we get hung up on this division thing? I believe we get hung up on it because we're using a shortcut. Now, what do I mean by that? The shortcut is that we all want to feel accepted. We all want to have a sense of belonging. It's in our nature. It's in our nature to want to be in a group. It's in our nature to want to move as a pack. It's in our nature to want to be accepted. So with that being in our nature, it's easier for us to just put ourselves around people or claim to be a part of a group or other people that are just like us. It's easier. There's no work involved. You don't have to show your talents or your uniqueness, your individuality. You don't have to work at that at all because everybody around you that you put yourself around is exactly the same. And those descriptions that you turn into groups create division and divide. And it's sad. It's sad because this has been going on for a long time. So the book that I'm reading right now is called Harriet Tubman, Conductor on the Underground Railroad. And in the foreword by Jason Reynolds, he mentions his experience with Black History Month in February in school when he was 10 years old. and what it basically consisted of, like how they went about it. He mentioned that they really gave a brief overview of slavery. When he mentioned that, that stood out to me. Like, what would be a brief overview of something that lasted roughly 250 years? And it's summed up as Africans were brought over here on slave ships or ships and forced to labor for free here in the colonies at the time, which turned into the United States. And they were forced to do so by whippings and threats of death. Very fast. It was an overview of slavery. They really didn't go into too much detail about the structure that was involved, the planning that was involved, the psychological bondage involved. It wasn't just chains, mental bondage, preventing you from being able to do certain things. Read, write. Why was it a threat for blacks to read and write? If it was no threat, there would be no purpose of stopping or preventing them from reading and writing. The chains weren't decoration. That was to prevent you from running away. That was preventing you from escaping. Maybe reading and writing is a form of freedom. Why? Information. Information can set you free. Knowing can set you free. And we take this privilege for granted. And I don't mean this as just black people. And I'm just using the terms black and white for descriptive purposes. Oh man, it's just a sad reality about it all. And I really expected this video to be more about what I learned from the book. They do have a lot of information in it that also led me to think further. And that's how my mind works personally. I get a little bit of information and then I dig deeper with it. Like, what is behind the scenes with this? I've heard of the Montgomery Bus Boycott. I've heard of it. And I know that Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat. But the timeline is what stood out to me. In August of 1955, Emmett Till was murdered. There were a lot of other things going on around that time in that year. In that same year, there were other events that were taking place where blacks were being treated less than human. So I'm sure it wasn't just as simple as Rosa Parks' feet hurting. I'm sure her heart was hurting. I'm sure her mind was exhausted from trying to figure out why. A young boy was murdered and mangled and tortured to the point where his mother didn't recognize him when he was brought back in a box. And she allowed them to give an open casket viewing of his body to display for everybody to see the ugliness of how one human being could treat another human being. So, on December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to another human being who happened to be white. She was arrested. On December 5th, 1955, the Montgomery Bus Boycott was formed. It lasted over a year. They boycotted over a year to get results, to see some type of change take place. And what was so crazy about it, the more I dug into this information, which I'm going to share down in the description, is that blacks were forced to give up their seat to sit at the back of a bus that they paid to ride, just like everybody else. And the revenue, the income, the profit from the bus system in Montgomery, Alabama, was generated by the fact that it was 90% black passengers who made up the profits. Most of the money they made off of people riding the bus was from black people. And they were treated less than human. But their money was fine. So they boycotted. They stopped riding the bus. They worked together and they stopped riding the bus. There's a video on it, and I'm going to put it down in the description. And it amazed me about the differences of how they stuck together and how long they stuck together. Due to the climate here in America, the racial tension and climate, riots take place. And protests take place. But something actually being organized to last a year, I haven't seen it in my lifetime. It took a year. And not only did it take a year, the things they did, how was that possible? How was it possible to go from 90% of the passengers on the bus were black? They had jobs, they had responsibilities, they had places they had to go. And now all of a sudden, one woman's decision not to give up her seat, all those other black people said, I'm not riding the bus either. They still had to get to where they needed to go. So what did they do? They started carpooling. They started putting their money together and their resources together to help each other get to where they needed to go. It was beautiful. Beautiful information to read and see. And they were met with adversity. People attempting to stop them from being able to do this. Police officers pulling them over for bogus traffic violations. Cab drivers were charging lower fees to blacks to help them out because they started to support them in their movement and what they were fighting for. And then Any cab driver caught doing that would be punished. So, why am I sharing this information with you today? I'm sharing this information with you today because I want you guys to know that you matter. Rosa Parks did not think for one moment, I guarantee you she didn't think for one moment that all those events would follow what she did. But because she stood for a purpose, I'm tired. This is ridiculous. I'm tired of this, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to play a game no more. She connected with other people who felt the same way. And then they decided to follow her lead and take action. You matter. You can make a difference. It starts with you. Stop bothering yourself with wondering what everybody else is doing or nobody else is doing it. That's your natural. You want to fit in. You want to feel accepted. It's vulnerable to stand out like a sore thumb. To challenge the status quo. To move so far from what's normal. Sometimes normal is not okay. It's not. So, I will advise you guys to learn more about history. History is important. Whether that's your own personal history with your family, what your great-grandfather did, what your mother did, what you do, what other people have done and what they do. It helps you understand yourself better. You may have more things in common with successful or famous people that you didn't know or wasn't aware of because you lacked the information. So I have some links down in the description of the content that I discovered and researched. And I'm also going to share with you the book, Harriet Tubman, Conductor on the Underground Railroad by Ann Petrie. Foreword by Jason Reynolds. And I'll have the link down in the description. Also, do not forget, I would like for you to support our local businesses here in Detroit and contact MILLENIUM Books and get the book from them if possible. I really would appreciate it. So, as always, be original, be great, and say, I am original greatness. God bless.